All right. We're here. We're live. Hello, everybody. Welcome. It's our monthly RP 101. Yay! I accidentally started Twitch under the wrong name because it is definitely not Saturday anymore. So I had to fix that. It should be right now. But we're here today with the lovely Andy, who's not above me this time. Usually you're above me.
I know. I feel weird.
And then we have Usnavi, or just Navi, I think is how you like to be called. And Navi plays Navi from the Overlook. And then next to me, you might recognize that picture. It's Steve Starr, who plays Highlander from the Forsaken Loyalists. And we're here to talk about hostile roleplay. And I heard that there was some spicy things going on in game between the Overlook and Forsaken Loyalists, so we'll get to talk about that a little bit. We'll have a real-time discussion about some in-game actual events going on. That will be exciting when we find the moment to talk about that. I always like to give our guest speakers an opportunity to introduce themselves, talk about themselves a little bit. Navi, would you like to get started? Just tell us who you are, a little bit about yourself, how long you've been playing on Doug, that sort of thing.
Sure. So my in-game name is Usnavi. I'm currently in a provider in the Overlook. Been in since about January. Though I've played on and off Doug since like 2018. But it's been like one-off characters here and there. Never really got into the whole story or big interactions until recently when I kind of came back into DayZ, got the random, recommended streams, and I got hooked again, and been playing pretty much every day since January. I have experience in role playing here and there. My main RP experience came from GTA 5, like 5M servers, and never really thought to put DayZ and RP until Doug kind of really hooked me back in. Had some really great interactions when I came back with the Overlook, and I made it a home. So
yeah.
Overlook is such a staple to me. I feel like that name has been around for as long as I have been playing Doug, which I joined in 2019, and the Overlook was a thing even then. So it's really cool to see a new cast taking on the mantle, doing things for the Overlook, and keeping it around.
Yeah, it's been a huge change in the sense from what I've been told, right, and some of the stuff that I'm finding out in character as well. But it's a whole new like school of people, right? There's some old timers still, and there's some, the founders kind of behind the scenes kind of thing, and we kind of pick brains and be like, hey, do you think this will be all right? And we want to take the Overlook this direction, and it's been a pretty cool experience so far.
Sweet.
As one of those really cool experiences dealing with the Forsaken Loyalists, maybe we should take it over to him and let him speak for himself. What do you have to say for yourself, mister?
Yeah, apologies for strong-arming you here and there, but, So my name's Steve. Everyone knows me as Highlander in-game. I've been on Doug for, 5 years now? I've only ever played with Forsaken Loyalists. I joined the server and went straight into the group kind of thing, as I knew people within it. So my background is like GTA roleplay, where I played a more probably hostile character there than I did or do on Doug. Yeah, I've kind of had to learn the hard way through Doug with FL, because it's not easy being an FL, to be honest, because a lot of people dislike you, right? So you have to go by a code that everyone has to adhere to and learn to the T, and if you don't, then you get punished or die or whatever, depending on how bad it is. So not only do we have enemies in front of us when we're fighting, it's also internal enemies at times as well, because if you fuck up, then it's a massive problem.
Yeah.
and that's kind of where the hostileness comes from, right? We actually fight more internally than we do externally most of the time. So
That's actually
Yeah, and it's
interesting you say that, because that's a topic that I want to talk about later, is infighting, in-group fighting.
it's good fun.
oh yeah, yeah, and yeah, I'm guessing, like Steve's saying, he's got his internal conflicts, right? And we're recruiting people for the Overlook. We're trying to be the non-hostile group and make sure that they're kind of going to adhere to that. Obviously, there's room for potential conflict, even if we're non-hostile. But we try to. There's an image of the Overlook that we're trying to portray, but not kind of put someone in a box that this is the character you're going to play from here.
Right. Yeah.
Okay. I think that was really, really good introductions, y'all. It really gives like
Yes.
a full a fuller anyway picture of where you guys are coming from and who's behind the scenes. I wanted to start off by talking about the first thing that people come to mind, the first thing that comes to people's minds when they think of hostile roleplay is the PvP. And I wanted to let everybody kind of talk about what they think the differences are, because I think there are some pretty key differences between what's hostile roleplay versus just PvP interaction. And I think it would be interesting to hear from you, Navi, first, because I have a feeling that the Overlook is kind of on the opposite end, where they're not necessarily perpetrating the hostilities and where they're experiencing it. Did you have any specific things in mind when you think of what good hostile roleplay looks like to you?
So okay, wow, trying to think here.
Take
What
your
good hostile
time.
RP? Yes. No, so like what hostile RP would looks good to me would be having an engaging interaction, even if there's hostilities between one another, right? Where it pushes the story, and it's not just a, give me your hat or I'll shoot you. You know, I think one of the groups that comes to mind that we do have some history with is Dan, right? They come in and they have an agenda, right? They have their agenda. They come in. There's hostile. If most of the time, let's say, we don't have the numbers to kind of be aggressive back or be somewhat hostile or defensive and stand our ground, so we kind of have to let things happen. And I have a thing about that where I do like the occasional hostile RP, but if it becomes the norm, it may be maybe too much, and it may kind of like close us off because it's like, oh, it's going to happen again and it's going to happen again, but there's no story being pushed. So a lot of people have been saying that there's a different Overlook now, and I'm personally, for me, I'm allowing those hostile interactions, even if they're just like the PvP KOS where there's no talks, to affect my character. It brings up the paranoia. The background of my character, though, as the Overlook, I'm quote unquote a farmer. My character's background is military, though I'm using those skills to help people. And that background in the military, now if I'm constantly being shot at, my paranoia is spiking. So I'm going to be a little bit more confrontational without being hostile. So it's a lot of back and forth, I guess, if the answer makes sense.
Navi's talking about character development, that thing that we talked about last episode. It sounds like he's done a lot of that based on the interactions that he's experienced in the world. Now, I toss over the same question to you guys, Andy and Steve. Do you want me to call you Steve, or do you want to be called Highlander? Do you care?
No, Steve's fine.
Steve's fine.
Whatever comes out is fine, to be honest.
Okay.
It's all good.
Whichever.
Yeah, I'm probably gonna interchange the two, to be quite honest. But I'm interested to hear from your perspective now, as somebody who's often perpetrating the hostility. How do you see it? What do you think looks good? and feels good.
So
I
there's
guess.
there's different layers to it, right? So as was kind of mentioned, there can be hostile roleplay in the sense of if there has been enough story beforehand, you can go in guns blazing by all means, right? And that's how I like it to happen. And don't get me wrong, there will be sometimes that stuff happens and it is literally like a switch and people start dying all around you, right? Most of the time there's an interaction beforehand which sparks that, even if it was like for FL, we hold on to information for like 2 years. So if we don't see a group for 2 years, tough shit, mate, they're getting shot in the back, you know what I mean? But I personally enjoy the intimidation side of it. It's strong arming people, basically creating deals that people don't want to make. Being able to twist our words in certain ways where they're trapping themselves basically into a contract with us, without lying to them, because that's a big part of FL is we don't tell lies. We just twist our words into a way that, well, you fell
Loopholes.
into a pit basically, and now you're fucked. So we like to kind of approach every situation as you have the potential to be extremely helpful to us, but whilst we're giving you the pedestal to put yourself on, we're also going to try and find ways to bring you back down and put you in debt and fuck you over. That's how it is, right? But some people just do it flawlessly and it's great and there's no hostile RP at all. Other people will fuck up at the first sentence and then it just goes from there, you know?
Yeah, sounds about right.
That sounds exactly like what my interactions with the Forsaken Loyals have been like.
Mhm.
What about you, Andy? Because I know that you've had your fair share as well.
Of taking or giving or
Well,
I've actually had a lot of
you've
both,
done
but
both.
I have done both.
You
But
have.
mainly I try to be a good guy most of the time because that's just the RP that I like. But I have played bad guys mostly in Red M. I don't think I've ever played any bad guys in. Well, other than there was like a girl group that was a bad where we just went around torturing men. But other than that, like I haven't really been in a bandit group for DayZ, but I have been criminals and things in Red M. And it's an odd thing because you do have to strike that balance between like doing what your hostile character would do, but also thinking about the interaction in general and trying to make it the best it can be for the other person. So you're kind of selfless in that way, where like you have to think of the other person to be a bad guy. I don't know. It's a weird thing, but it's true. I mean, yeah.
I think
It's
that
like I guess it would
I think that makes
it'd
sense.
be
Like you
like
have
go
to
ahead.
you have to have a strong sense of empathy. Sorry to talk right over you, Navi. I want to hear what you have to
Oh
say
no, it's
too.
fine.
But you do have
Yeah.
to have some empathy for the other person and be able to put yourself in their shoes on the other side.
Yeah.
I
Yeah,
really want to hear
I
what
was
you
gonna
had to
expand
say.
on that.
Go ahead.
No, I was
I'm
gonna
sorry.
expand on that, on having the empathy of thinking about the other person's character out of character. And to Steve's point, is kind of like giving them a rope, right? And how much rope are they gonna take to hang themselves in that interaction? Because that's something that I do take apart, and especially with the Overlook, we have a huge influx of new players coming into Doug, and at least because we're so close to the coast, we're one of those first interactions. So sometimes it'll be turning a KOS player into an actual RPer, which we've had in the recent past. Some certain groups have even stemmed off of that, just those little bits of interaction where we kind of be a little bit hostile in the moment, but it's more of a teaching lesson, right? And obviously taking into account, and sometimes depending on how the RP goes, I'll send like a private message, be like, hey, great job with the RP, love the interaction, and kind of leave it at that. I don't like talking about in-game stuff out of character, but at least give them that like, hey, you did great,
Like, good job.
especially
Yeah.
if I know they're new.
I think
Yeah.
that dealing with the KOS, dealing with the PvP, dealing with getting robbed, all of that stuff. I think sometimes in roleplay communities, playing that type of character and doing that type of thing can almost have a sort of stigma to it, because it is tense and it does sometimes feel bad to be the recipient of that hostility and to be robbed and to be killed. It doesn't feel good out of character sometimes. And especially role playing in DayZ where the stakes are so high. I mean, you die and you lose everything and you don't respawn in your house, or you don't respawn in a hospital, you respawn at the sea and you start over again. And so yeah, there is sometimes, I think, a bit of a stigma on people that are playing that type of character, and there is some bleed towards people that play that type of character. But ultimately I think it's really healthy for roleplay when it's done right, and I think it serves a purpose and drives a lot of good RP to happen, to have people willing to be the villain.
Yeah.
I was thinking about that when you were talking about yourself and your character and how much your character's developed based on interactions like that. And I'm the same, and I'm sure Andy and Steve are the same too. That in the apocalypse, things aren't often going your way. Things aren't always sunny side up, and that's a big like plot driver, I think, for not just personal stories, but the server as a whole.
Yeah, apocalyptic RP is dark. Things are
Very,
terrible.
it's terrible here.
Nothing is going to go right. Everything will be hard.
As they should be, right?
Yeah.
It's the setting.
Also,
See,
I
just
do
on
think.
sorry, Andy.
No, I was just gonna say I do think that also hostile RP groups are one of those gateways between PvPers and actually going into roleplay, because they might join a hostile group as a PvPer just to be like, well, they shoot people and I want to shoot people. And then they see, you know, the people who are RPing as hostile characters doing, you know, that little bit of extra to create a story, and then they kind of like start thinking, okay, is this like, how do they, what's going on here? Why is it not, why aren't we just shooting him in the face? Why are we having these conversations? There's politics, there's things. And then they start kind of getting a little, you know, piqued interest. So I think because of the game that it's in, of DayZ, obviously it's a PvP game, that they're that bridge a lot of the times, the hostile RP groups. So, you know, it's a heavy burden to shoulder to be that. And also, again, like you said, to have that stigma against them at the same time. It's like one of those kind of thankless jobs, unless you you know, you really have the empathy or in the community, you know, people know you. Like, I would get robbed by a Highlander any day of the week. I really would. I wouldn't mind. I've been robbed by Highlander. And it was great, and I loved it. My character didn't, but I did. So, you know, it's important like that. Like, knowing those people and trusting them is a big part of that back and forth, which we talked a lot about trust last time as well. But yeah.
So what I was going to say was I probably have robbed you. I actually robbed that many people. I forget who I've robbed most of the time, right? Which
Yeah.
sounds terrible, but
No, that's fine.
we often, when we are either robbing someone, are very conscious of the fact that someone might be brand new, and we have to be careful and kind of tiptoe around those people who are brand new. And obviously, we're still leaning into our characters, and we're still definitely robbing them, and it's in a way teaching them a lesson. But we don't leave them with like, "That's it, you're robbed, go away." We will go and give them a task, so either they can go and prove themselves to us, or go and spread information about what we're asking them to do to other groups, which will then bridge their story even further naturally from just being robbed. And to be honest, we rob people lightly anyway most of the time, just like bits of ammo and stuff like that. We're not taking like full on guns, because what's the point? We're probably more geared than most people are anyway, because of our play styles, as most evil groups are, right? Um, but there is a sense that you need to be really careful with how you're approaching newer people and making sure that when you are doing it, that you are aware that some people can be quite annoyed, and might end up lashing out a little bit. But as long as you're not taking it personal and you're trying to make them understand that it is purely just a character. And I think, to be fair, streaming has helped that, right? It's a lot of FL got a lot of flack for a long time because people just thought we were arseholes out of the game, basically, as well. But I think it's been a lot more like chill with how people are seeing us approach stuff out of character and stuff like that as well. So, as I've said multiple times, that you need to remember about the other person on the other side of the screen when you're doing things, and make sure that your actions are tailored to your character, but also tailored to them.
Agreed.
The ending statement was really
Right.
good. I liked that. Tailor to your character, but also tailor to the other person you're dealing with too. I think I'm even a perpetrator of this in the past, where I'm so stuck in dealing with everybody in a certain way that you kind of forget that everybody is going to experience it differently. And I think I'm better about it now, but I think in the
Who did you
past
kill?
I kill a lot of people. I ate a lot of people.
Mm.
I don't do it so much now. I'm more talk than I am actually going out and killing anybody nowadays. I mean, just frankly because of time, but also just because I've learned that it's a bit more fun to let people live to tell the tale than just outright kill them. But that's just kind of a matured philosophy, if you will. People do still die, but you know, maybe if it's just one person, what's the point? It's far more traumatic to kill people in front of their friends and let their friends run away than it is to just kill people when they're by
Wow. Yeah.
themselves. But yeah, I think that it's something that I definitely had to learn over time. And I look back and I feel cringe sometimes of stuff that I've done before, and I'm just like, oh, that probably didn't feel very good for the other person now that I'm looking back on that. But all you can do is do better in the future.
Mhm.
So I try.
Yay.
Yeah, I've had cases where.
I'm sorry, Navi. I was thinking on
Oh,
how
no,
to
you're fine.
segue to the next talking point, because we pretty much covered everything I wanted to that we had on the outline for now, and I'm like, how do I segue to the next thing? Maybe what you say will help me.
Oh no, now I forgot.
No, this is the second time I've talked
No.
right at the same time as you. I'm so sorry.
Oh no, it's fine. It's fine. It's fine. I have an awkward timing of starting to talk sometimes, but no worries. I think. Let's just go ahead. Let's segue. Maybe I remember.
I think you and I are sharing a same brain cell. We keep trying to talk at the same time. I was gonna talk about using the hostile roleplay to create stories and how to use those hostilities to build on your own story, enhance your storytelling. Our last episode, we talked about character development, and we brought up arcs, story arcs for your character, and a couple of them resonate with this topic. You have, you know, heroes that, you know, devolve into villains, and the opposite, you have your redemption arcs, your revenge arcs, your backstabbery, and PvP falls into that category too. There is kind of a meme saying in Doug that KOS is interaction, KOS is RP.
It can be.
It can
It's like
be.
the square and the rectangle. It's like they're not always
Yeah.
It's like PvP can be RP, but RP is not always PvP. Like, there's it only goes one way. But yeah,
I think it's a fine line
It is.
it is. It's really is.
because there's elements of myself as a DayZ player who loves PvP, but also you need to be aware that you're on a role playing server, right? Um, at times, have I just went and shot people because I felt like it? Absolutely. Um, have I also let a story build up for months and months and months and then potentially shot people or been shot at by them? Absolutely as well. There just is a balance. And people find themselves dying left and right, either because of their own actions or they've just got in the wrong situation at the wrong time, basically. I think that's where most of the KOS that we see on Doug, especially, happens.
Yeah.
How do
Sometimes I use
you
the.
guys like to
Here
deal
we go
with
again.
it? Yeah, how do you guys like to deal with KOS? How do you deal with being KOS as far as your story goes?
So I can kind of give an example. Something that's kind of going on right now. It's a specific group out there. Not FL, not FL. But there's a group out there that's been attacking the Overlook, and sometimes we can confirm if they're them. Sometimes we can't, right? But because we don't get an interaction and it's just a straight KOS, but we'll somehow intertwine it within our characters that it's them, right? Or within the story and just let it develop that it's building up to this massive group that's attacking us. But it could all really be just one person, multiple different people that are not connected in any way. But in our minds, in our characters' minds, it's all connected. So it drives us to be a little different, play a little different, RP a little different, like you're saying with the whole character development. It's just I like the environment to affect my character. That's kind of how I've been playing it. Um, I I think I did watch part of the previous episode, and sometimes you have your guidelines of what your character is, but you shouldn't just leave it onto that and let it develop. So I'm definitely new mindset, and obviously the episode has helped with that a bit. And sometimes certain interactions happen where, hey, it's a new idea that pops in. It's like, oh, let me see how this will work with my character.
That's good to hear that it helped.
Wow.
Another thing that's here on this little docket is how hostile RP groups kind of help, especially in this setting, sort of set the world tension and stakes, because you need bad guys in a world like this. If everyone was good, it would not be the same world. There would not be the tension, there would not be the risk and the danger and the real feeling of an apocalypse without those bad groups and without KOS and without, the possibility of getting robbed or shot or whatever. So the PvP and the hostile RP is absolutely essential for a world like this. And it really helps it and just the feel of it, and to help the RP in every character story that ever has a hostile encounter. They can take it like Navi does, and no matter what it is, if it's KOS or not, put it into their story or not. That's kind of up to them if they're feeling kind of like, oh, just whatever. But you can do that with every single injury you get. You can get mentally kind of screwed up by it in your story. Like there's a lot of things you can do even without it being from an actual like hostile RP group. If it's just KOS or just some person who decides that they're going to attack you that day. But yeah, it's essential to that world for sure. And even in other worlds, even in like Red M, if you don't have criminals, doing all the seedy stuff and robbing people, and like there's that good and bad. You need that stuff for good story. That conflict is so important for so many things. It's like the driving force of a lot of things. So yeah, that's the stories we like to see too. That's the stuff that people are interested in and want to make. So yeah.
Yeah, so I've played on other RP servers that are like non KOS, and it just plays different. I do like the way Doug plays because weirdly enough, I like having to look over my shoulder.
Yeah.
I'm in a
gotta be
survival
careful.
setting.
You
I'm,
actually
I'm
have
in a
to be
survival
careful.
setting. I need to look over my and I'm hoping to get a good interaction. But if I don't, hey, that's part of the game.
Yeah. Yeah.
We had a good I know we do have a question and answer towards the end, once we've covered all of the things that we wanted to cover, but I do see one that I want to bring up right now where it talks about, they're asking about motive and intent behind KOS and if that's a key thing. And I would say that it is in a way, but also you can't really know what someone's motive or intent was behind KOS. A lot of times it happens from so far away. You know, you get sniped and you're dead. And I mean, that's most of the time when I'm KOS, I have no idea who even did it. And on Doug in particular, there's no rules against it. You don't have to have any other reason other than I wanted to. And it's up to the role players, and not everybody's role playing on Doug either. I know this is a roleplay 101 and we're talking about roleplay on these episodes, but when you're playing on this server specifically, it is not a rule that you have to be role playing. So it's kind of, I just take it in stride if I get killed, whether I know who did it or not. And depending on your character, you can make all kinds of assumptions about why they might have done it, but you can't really know. A really good friend of mine who plays the character Worm in the Dark Carnival, he has the saying that he says a lot where you are best to assume positive intent, whether that means they did it because they were starving and they figured you had food, or they did it because you had a better gun than them, or they did it because you did something to someone they cared about, or whatever you can think of that is a good reason. It's just best for you to assume that reason because you really won't know. You really won't know. And it's, I mean, you can reach out to them out of character. You can DM them and you can be like, why'd you do that? But it's kind of bad taste to do that.
Yeah.
I wouldn't recommend doing that. It's just, you don't really have to answer to people for that sort of thing. Not here anyway. Other roleplay servers will have their own rules and their own ways of dealing with that sort of thing, but on Doug, it's almost anything goes, you know, when it comes to whether or not you want to kill somebody. You can be friendly with someone to their face and then the next minute decide to shoot them in the face. It's not against the rules. It's not.
Yeah. However, if you would like to further RP and you're a hostile RPer or a PvPer that wants to get into a little bit of RP or to, you know, start something with someone that is a little more long lasting, you can do things like leave notes and be like, you will pay for whatever, and you could sign it and whatever. Or you can leave, a lot of people, if they're from an established group, will leave cards, like a calling card of like, we were the ones that did this, you know, that kind of a thing. Or you leave one person alive and you're like, hey, we did this. And if you don't do this, then blah, blah, blah. You know, you can kind of perpetuate story that way. Now, you should probably be willing to think about the consequences of whatever that could be, depending on which group you're doing that to. If they're a more defensive group, you know, that's more geared, you're like, okay, well, we might have some battles about this in their territory, or, you know, maybe we can't go to certain places anymore. Or if it's a community camp, like if depending on the community camp, of course, you know, you might not be able to go there, or you might the next time you go there be questioned or have some other, you know, consequences to that. But it is really nice for the people that who are experiencing your aggression to be able to respond to it and to create story out of it. And you know, have those, even if it's just one person, like one person can be attacking, you know, a place because they want something from them, or they're mad at them for whatever reason. So like that stuff makes better story if you're looking to kind of dip your toe in, but still are kind of starting from a PvP standpoint, and don't know what else to do. Notes are wonderful.
I think I think that a lot of people actually have that kind of built into how their character plays. I kind of want to hear from Steve because I haven't for a minute. I know, or at least I've heard, that the loyalists have a pretty strict ROE when they're dealing with people. And I'm interested to hear if you're willing to tell me. I don't know if these are government secrets you're about to tell me, but is that sort of thing baked into the group's ROE, leaving calling cards and doing side quests, or is that kind of stuff that just happened organically that you were like, "Oh, that was nice. Let's keep doing that."
So I'll tell you some stuff. Don't want to go into too much detail because it's more fun if you guys find out like
Yeah.
naturally,
Yeah.
right? And that goes for like everyone even listening. So we are built on what used to be an old motorcycle club, which was Forsaken MC, which we are loyal to their cause, right? Which is killing the cult and all this nonsense, right? Bikers are famously extremely obnoxious. So we claim everything that we do. We leave notes that clearly states this is the reason why you done it. We're fucked off with you. You've done this wrong. You've done that wrong. Business is closed from now on. Like you're shit on site, and we'll tell them before it happens. Majority of the time, that that's the case. So they are aware that if they see lime green running towards them, then they're in for a rough time, and so are we probably, right? There is elements of it, side quest stuff like that. That came about. This actually, I can backpedal a bit to a previous kind of thing where we were talking about like why people just randomly die sometimes. So FL have been in some situations where we are having to be like cockroaches of Chernarus, where we are struggling to survive, right? And everyone's shooting at us, everyone wants to kill us, and we are just out in the bushes somewhere with a stash, being like, guys, we have nothing. We need to do something here. And the quickest way to get some gear is shoot people, right? So if we're running about with it's a group of 4 of us, we'll go and look for other groups. And it doesn't mean like going to a camp and start shooting at people. It means like trying to catch people off guard, even if it's breaking their legs and robbing them and then taking all their stuff. Or if we're going to the more kind of extreme side of it, where we have almost too much stuff that you're borderline trying to give away, putting yourself in stupid situations that you shouldn't be able to win, that kind of thing. And then the robbing of people, giving them tasks, that kind of falls into that category when we had no clients, which to people that don't know, a client to FL is basically someone who works for us and we pay you and you get benefits along with that people that aren't clients do, such as like protection.
Maybe they won't rob you.
Yeah, or you're paying us to not come to your town, stuff like that. Like it's fun, right? And that's basically what we're doing with the Overlook. They're paying us for us not to appear in Steroid. So
Spilling the beans, man. Spilling the beans.
yeah. But it's good fun, right? And it's different. It's a different approach to like hostile roleplay, where we're like, well, we'll just come and fuck your shit up if you don't pay us. So
Extortion.
yeah.
Extortion.
The tasks came naturally where we are looking for clients and we just had to figure a way out. And it's like this random guy who's running through the woods might be the most useful person we have ever spoken to. And sometimes they are. And I can tell you now that I've received probably more stuff from random people that are is more worthwhile than big groups. And it's purely because they kind of want to have their place in the server, especially if they're new. And if you grab the right person and they are willing to go along with it, then you're on to a winner, you know.
Absolutely. That's always
And
nice.
I kind of want to add it to what Andromeda was saying. There's the other side where, so obviously with the Overlook, we're non-hostile, right? And I think you also have to be very careful with viewing non-hostile groups as easily preyed upon, right? Where you're going to be constantly hitting them, and not just the Overlook. I'm just talking in general, community camps or whatnot, where take into account if I'm constantly coming here and just shooting and killing and not really doing the whole full hostile RP or giving hostile RP, but it becomes a thing where it may potentially push people away from wanting even an interaction with you. And those are things like FL has their ROE. So does the Overlook. We have a more non-hostile ROE that we must adhere to, but if you do break it, expect consequences in character, right? Where, like one of ours is we don't shoot first. Like it has to be in self-defense. It's all about self-defense. So we try to get control of you in a certain way, right? Either knock you out or apprehend you and have that force that conversation, force that negotiation, and where we're using our words as our weapon versus straight guns. And it's kind of interesting because obviously Steve just brought it up. That's our thing. We're gonna try and talk our way out of things, versus going straight into the hostilities. So.
Yeah.
Have you ever just wanted to break someone's leg though? Like that's like
all the time, man.
It's such a good feeling, man. When you just like,
that's what an ROE is for, so you don't.
Yeah,
I know, but oh man,
all the time.
Just
struggle
give
so
in
much
to the dark. And just
Sometimes
break some legs.
everyone finds that player, that crackhead that's just like coming in there, and you just know, you got that sense. You're like, they're just gonna, they're trolling,
I
doing
won't lie.
something, and they're absolutely going to shoot you as soon as they have the opportunity. And you always are like you feel it, and you're like, I know what's gonna happen, but I'm a good group, and I'm not gonna shoot first. And then it happens, and you're like, I knew it.
Oh, there was not just the other day. There was a situation where someone ran up to us, no talking nor anything. They didn't realize when they turned the corner, they had Navi there pointing a shotgun. As soon as they raised that gun, they were no more. But again, that plays off to I've been really paranoid. So I heard footsteps when we shouldn't have been hearing footsteps, and it just instant came out. The DayZ PvP player with a couple thousand hours comes out, and it's like it's time.
Yeah.
But yes, there's a lot of internal discussions where we get attacked, and we're talking out of character and being like, "Hey, we know it's expected. It's expected. We're gonna get shot, and we're not gonna know who did it." But we have characters to adhere to, right?
Yeah. And that's another thing. There's a lot of different ways to respond to hostile RPs. Some people, like the Overlook, will still have that defensive, like, we will fight back if you come at us. Like, we have ways, and we will defend ourselves. If you shoot us, we get to shoot back, and we get to defend ourselves and do something about it. I know there are some very passive ways of doing that. We're like, no, we can't, because we have got bigger plans, and we got things. And even on a like person to person, like if you get caught out in the middle of nowhere and you get into a situation that is hostile, you can absolutely run the fuck away, which is what I do a lot. I mean, if it's purely like they're just shooting at you, or you might have had a conversation and then they try to shoot you, and I have run away before. Sometimes to people's surprise. I have been hostage in situations before where they planned to kill me at the end of it. And I knew that as the character and as me, knew that they were probably going to shoot me at the end of it. And then when the time came, I juked and I like ran the fuck away and somehow lived. That was something that happened to Andy. with Damn once upon a time and the cult. So there's different ways to respond to hostile RP, and it's a spectrum of things.
Yeah, I think for me it stems a lot from when I was doing the 5M, and it was like value your life was a big topic. Because it's to me it's kind of weird, you get killed and you wake up on the coast and you're just right back. So as far as interactions, I'm going to try to value the situation, because if it'd be interesting to have a character with one life and seeing how far you can get. But
yeah, I can't tell you how many value for life conversations I've had, especially on the Red M side of things, because that's like a big thing on the other side of, where there's a lot of RP rules and stuff. Value for life is like one of those kind of like, subjective things where it's like most of the time that means if someone points a gun at you, you stop and you do exactly what they say. But because I came up in Doug as an online RPer, I'm like, well, you could run away. You could do this. You could fight back. Like if you feel like you can survive better that way. So, I'm a little controversial in the Red M space because I think that, but I just think it's more real because in real life, even if you get faced with that, people do all sorts of things, fight, flight, all kinds. So, I just enjoy the more nuanced sort of things rather than having to do the one thing. And if you don't do that, having a flag thrown at you or whatever, just, I don't know. That's me.
I think there's a time and a place for that, though, right? So, for example, I can use FL that the amount of times this happened to us. We're surrounding someone with like 4 people, and they just pull a gun and start blasting, and you're like, man, you're not going to win the fight, right?
Yeah,
it is, right?
If it's like one person, there's more.
If it's even 2 on 1, I can understand it, but you're completely outnumbered. 1 bullet in this game takes you down most of the time, right?
Yeah.
In 5M, it's much different. Red M, it's much different because you have your armor. The amount of bullets that you take is massive compared to what you do in DayZ. So it makes, I suppose, less sense to take that chance in 5M, which is why it's such a strict rule, right? But in DayZ, there is an opportunity with 1-2 people to get yourself out of it by pulling, and it can work. But when you're surrounded by, as I said, 4 or 5 people, and you just decide, oh, I'm just going to pull my gun, or the classic, oh, just kill me. That is the worst. That is the worst stuff for someone that's trying to do hostile RP. And that's probably the only part of hostile RP that I actually get salty at times, when you're like trying to create a situation for this person, even if we're giving them a task or we're not giving them a task, it doesn't really matter. It's still RP at the end of the day, and it's just taken away from us because someone's in a bad mood at what's going on to their character. That's when it's the whole remember who's on the other side of the screen thing.
Yeah. Especially when you're trying to provide an experience and an interaction.
Yeah.
And possibly a good story for somebody with that one thing, and then they just throw it in your face. It's like, yeah, it doesn't feel good.
It's a funny reaction to me because when somebody says, oh, just get it over with, just kill me, it's like, I could have killed you before I even came up here and talked to you. But I didn't, for a reason.
Yeah.
Yeah, and now this is going to be a lot longer and more painful for you.
Exactly.
So strap in, buddy.
Alrighty then, that's how we're gonna go? Okay. Very well then. So you have chosen the slow road. I found that type of stuff annoying and difficult too, and still do sometimes. I think I play it differently now. When I was playing a different character, I was playing in Damn, and it was just a lot simpler if somebody wasn't playing along to just shoot them and move on. And sometimes that still happens now that I'm a clown, but I find a lot of the time we're just we collectively understand this person doesn't want to role play. This person doesn't want to do this. And we'll just find an excuse to just leave. It's like a 50-50, I feel like now, whether or not, okay, you want to die, here you go. Or we're like, you know what? It's whatever, fine. Bye. And we'll just go do something else. I think as important as it is to have people like Dan, people like FL, people even like Cult of Papa, we have a lot of really great groups on the server that are doing hostile roleplay in their own ways. I think each group does it differently. And then you have solos too that are doing their thing. You run into some crazy, scary people out there that are just, they're not affiliated.
Yeah.
There's a lot of great characters doing that. And I think the opposite side that's also really, really needed and important is to play a victim well, to not just give up, oh, just kill me, don't break the immersion, you know, just and maintain, like you said earlier, Navi, that value for life, care about your life when you interact with somebody that's trying to take the time to even let you see their, like, you can see their armband, you can see what they look like, you can hear their voice. And Doug doesn't have rules about, oh, you can't remember this happened for 30 minutes and that sort of stuff. So being able to get close enough where your victim's going to identify you is the bad guy putting themselves in a vulnerable position, because now you can retaliate. Now you know what they look like. Now you know what they sound like. You know what group they're affiliated with possibly if they wear armbands or they have, you know, a very specific PID that they all wear. So it is give and take it both ways. I personally try my best. I was recently interrogated by a very intimidating wisp. and it felt
Oh.
and it was very tense, and I was handcuffed, and I didn't fight it. I was out of character, like, I probably deserve this. You know, I probably this is my karma. Yeah, I kind of, you know what, they win. They got me, and they got me handcuffed, and what am I gonna do now? I'm not gonna go out guns blazing. It's just one me, you know. So
Yeah.
it's just it's a little different because clowns believe that we get revived, and it's kind of our funny little lore reason why you always wake up on the coast. But I still try to not be completely reckless with my life and be really dumb. You know, I try to read the room and not be like, oh, you could just kill me because I'll just come back. Ha ha ha. I still try to maintain a little bit of care in the carefree clown I play.
Yeah, I would say even if you believe something like that, human like survival instinct is very strong. I feel like that plays, like, no matter what you believe, like if you're faced with like, I'm gonna die maybe right now, like your brain might, you know, kick in a little bit and be like, let's not die.
There's reasons. I've decided to roleplay it that Polly remembers how unbelievably excruciating it's been every single time to die. So it's not necessarily that she's afraid to die. It's more that she's afraid of what happens in the moments before she actually finally gets to pass away. She's like, oh, it doesn't feel very good to get a bunch of bullets in the chest. It doesn't feel very good for Dan to blow me up with a grenade launcher. It doesn't feel good for those things to happen and get eaten by wolves. So I'd rather not go through it. And that's how I maintain that. Please don't kill me. I'm scared. Don't do it.
It hurts.
It hurts me.
It hurts. What are some of y'all's favorite, if you have specifics, it would be great, interactions of hostile RP, like a favorite robbery or a favorite, you know, cult scene or a favorite, I don't know, just anything that sticks out to you as like the best hostile RP interaction that you would have had over however long you've been doing it? Any thoughts?
I want to hear Highlander because he's the bad guy. I want to hear what happened to you and who did it and why.
Um, So
who are we after?
I had a really strange hostile RP situation. So Alice used to be in FL. She left to go to Odyssey. I think this was maybe just before she joined. And don't get me wrong, I had literally just been shot in a field, and I woke up on the coast, just like, oh, let's just run through Cherno and do my usual shit. And the next thing I know, I've got a gun pointed at me from the front. I turn around, there's like 5 ORCC behind me as well. I'm like, oh my god, this couldn't be any worse. And then I'm like taken to a barn and I'm sitting there like I'm a freshie, right? But I'm still going to go along with it, and it's going to be funny, and I'll talk my way out of it, I'm sure. And you know, they held me up, they asked me questions. Highlander being Highlander is just an idiot as well, so he was kind of being a bit aggressive back, taking the piss out of them, kind of trying to lighten the mood so he could like twist their arm and like manipulate the situation a little bit to like try and wiggle his way in somewhere to even strike a deal to get him out of that barn to then hopefully ignore that deal for however long he needs to, basically. But basically, it came to a close where it went on for maybe 20 minutes, 30 minutes. And Alice turns around to one of them and goes, I'll break his leg and leave him. And the guy just holds fire. And I'm just dead again. And I was like, you know what? Even though that was the shortest life I've probably ever lived on DayZ, it was such good fun being in that barn. And like, yeah, I could have probably permaed from it if I really wanted to, but there was more story to come from it. It wouldn't have made sense because they didn't want me to die anyway, right? But it was a really fun time. And to be honest, one of the few times where I've actually been captured. There's only been maybe 1 or 2 more, but that one was definitely funny.
Nice. How are you, Navi?
I guess one of my favorite ones recently was I was actually killed while cutting up a sheep. This comes into the someone KOSing you looking for food. Well, I end up getting killed. I end up running back. The providers during that time heard the shots and I guess came over to my body, and we have Uno, she's our doctor. So, you know, she properly fixed me up, you know, brought me back to life, quote unquote, on that body. And then she lets me know that they've apprehended the people that just shot me.
Ooh.
I have a chicken in my hand. And it was the first time as a provider that I laid hands on someone else where it wasn't, you know, like defending shooting. But I walked in with a chicken in my hand and started asking questions. Why would you kill someone? Why not just walk up to them and ask them for food? That is what the Overlook is here for. And kind of went into this whole Overlook speech while, you know, you get those situations where they're not RPing, but you're trying to get them to RP and they're just laughing it off. So every time it would be like some stupid comment, I'd punch him in the mouth with a chicken. And it was this whole interaction. We had providers in there, we had those people, and then we had just friends of the Overlook. And it was an interesting situation. And I think that was just a funny encounter where I got to do somewhat of a hostile RP without, you know, completely going away from my character. I was just really mad, like shooting someone in the back while they're, you know, cutting up a sheep. Like, there's plenty of sheep. We can all share if you were hungry. Oh,
That's pretty good.
Would you like to hear one from the chat? I asked some of the chatters to share, and we got one from callsign Breakpoint, who said that they had a really good perma opportunity and lore opportunity when they were caught off guard by FL. Only 2, but they decided to play along. It was a really good interaction that did lead to my death, quote unquote. That I got a full good bit of lore with a whole mute phase and surgery to reattach my jaw, courtesy of Teddick the Medic. Highlander will know who I am. He was on the other end of the gun.
Yeah, Dave. Hi, mate.
That's a great story.
Oh, Dave, no.
You got to interact with a bunch of different people because of that. That's pretty cool. I love that. We have another one from Buck that says they were recently robbed by some Russians after they unconned him in Gorka, and they communicated via ChatGPT translating to say GG's, and they let him go after he explained how to claim territory. I can
I can't
always count
imagine how
on
funny
Buck
that
for
would be.
wild stories, always. Buck has the best stories every time. He never fails me.
Oh, yeah, I would say one of my favorite hostile RP. I don't get shot very often. Some people like to say I have fairy dust on my ass because I just don't get shot very often. Either because of just the times that I play or just the way that I play, I just don't get shot very often. So I would say recently my more favorite ones was definitely getting caught at the archive with Highlander and a couple of other FL members. I think it was just 2, maybe 3. But we had just moved there, and I just remember Highlander asking, "Are you part of Coalition?" And at the time, Ember being who she was and her admission and everything couldn't be affiliated with any group because that would limit some things for her. And they had, I think you guys had been shot by somebody, either that or you were just bullshitting, which either way is fine. And we're asking like, "Oh, who was your friend that was shooting me?" And you were like accusing me of all sorts of things, and it was very scary. And you ended up robbing me, like tying me up, robbing me, and then kind of being like, "If we find out it's your friend, we're gonna come back, and there's gonna be some problems." Which I knew was it, but literally after you guys left, like a whole bunch of other people, like Mamie and some other people from the coalition and David, some people came in, and I was just sitting there. I was contemplating sitting there in, like, still in the ropes, just sitting there in ropes for whoever happened to find me. But they come in, and I'm just like, we need to go. But that's definitely one of my more favorite hostile interactions that I've had in the last couple of months. It was good. Well done. Y'all are intimidating as fuck.
Sometimes it's the short interactions that are the most intimidating, right? When we come in, ask a
Yeah.
bunch of questions, and just leave straight away.
Yeah. And you
then
took
you're like, what the fuck just
some
happened?
stuff for yourselves and
Oh,
whatever.
of course, yeah. But I've gave you an armband in the past for your.
Yeah, I know. I remember
thing,
that.
so it
But
all
then wipe
balances out,
happened,
right?
and I was like,
Yeah.
Yeah.
Technically, it was still a trade, right? So.
Yeah, that's fair.
Wouldn't it be a
But-
contract?
Mm.
If it was, Ember wasn't aware she was entering into one. But that's FL. You never know. Don't take gifts from FL because there will be things probably in the future. They're like, we gave you this thing, so.
I don't think that's happened for a long time, where we've been like, oh, have this one tetracycline, and then 6 months later, remember when we saved your life?
Yeah.
You as an epoxy.
Yeah.
Oh, we sometimes tend to warn people about that, the gifting that happens within the Forsaken Loyalists, to be very, very careful. Usually if they start asking a lot of, because we have a lot of new folks usually that run through, they start asking questions about different factions, we show them the map and all these things, we're almost like pointing them like, you may want to check out Gorka, or you may want to go up north, House of Hope, and all these things, just where we're situated. And we try to tell, like, obviously we don't want to steer people away from the bad things, but wait, did I lose audio here?
No.
Okay.
Okay.
No, I saw lips moving, and I was like, wait a second.
Sorry, no, I'm talking to my.
Yeah, no, I figured now. But trying to give the people to explore the map and get all sorts of interactions before they make a decision. Kind of, because a lot of people come through and it's like, oh, where's a good place to build, or where's good. It was like, take the next few weeks and explore, and learn the people.
Yes, it's really important that you engage both in the server and just in the community as a whole before you make any big decisions and make any important, I guess, choices in regards to your character and like settling into a specific area. And I also find newcomers, they a lot of the time they've seen things before they come into the server, and so they already have some predisposition about certain places and certain people, and I would caution against that. Even though you as the player know that Gorka is a terrible place to be, and that the Forsaken loyalists are bandits and robbers and whatever you think you might know based on what you've seen in a stream or in a YouTube video or what you heard from your friend who plays on the server. I would caution to go into it brand new. And like
More fun
Navi
that way.
said, go to those places and have your characters see for themselves, because sometimes you get surprised and you don't get what you were expecting. I've seen plenty of shout outs to different people in different groups, or like, shout out to this person who you would immediately expect as that interaction probably equaled death, but it wasn't death. It was actually a really interesting roleplay scenario, or they had a really strange experience, or they had an interesting discussion, or something happened that was totally out of left field. And to go in with some kind of prejudgment that you really wouldn't know in character kind of stifles what could be.
That's actually kind of what happened with Ember and FL at first, because Ember knows history, right? And so she knows kind of the stories of things, but when she first met FL, they were so nice to her. I mean, she was, there was still that sort of like, I don't know them, I don't trust them kind of thing. But they were so kind of nice to her and very pleasant and respectful for the next however long until Highlander robbed her. She was like, no, they're very reasonable, they're very, and talking like very nicely about them. So yeah. And plus she's young. That character is very young and it's kind of naive. Despite all of her like intellectual assets, like she's a little slower on the people end of things sometimes. So yeah, you had a fan for a good couple of months there. It was just like, no, they're not so bad, they're blah blah blah, and they gotta live too and whatever. And she was very understanding. And then she got robbed and she's like, well, I guess they're just robbers then. I thought I had rapport.
I think sometimes it can be difficult to, I guess, like from your perspective, right? When you first met Highlander, he was super nice,
Mhm.
and then later down the line, I wasn't so nice.
Yeah.
It's so I
And you
kind of
let
play
me
character.
live, so I mean,
Oh, of course, yeah, but like we I think the first time I was with Alex, who at the time was a prospect, and I was like, we should just go and check this place out. Don't know what it is, and then you're just locked in there, and I was like, I don't know what to do here. I was kind of like, there's someone inside. I don't know who they are. I didn't recognize your voice at all, and then I started asking more about what the place was, and I was like, you know what? Fair enough. This could be something really, really interesting. So yeah, we could have robbed you the first time. But we chose to give you an armband and be like, keep that for
for
future
records.
people. Yeah,
I
for
was
your
like,
records.
well,
Yeah, and then that's the difference. Even though we're still a hostile group, there's still obviously elements of if you're trying to do something in the server, I'm pretty sure hostile groups will not just come in and dump on you because you're doing something. Like we'll always put an arm out and be like, go for it. Because as I said, to be honest, like I know you've kind of been around and stuff like that, and you've had other characters, but I had no idea who you were. So I was like, you know what? Don't
that's
recognize this
great.
person.
Good
Have
to
an
know.
armband. Let's go. Like, so I think
Yeah.
there's always got to be that. even just if you meet someone in the close, point them in the right direction. If it's a quick go up there, you'll get food, and then just run away from them and tell them to fuck off or whatever you want to do. But I think that's integral to, especially when you know, or you kind of have a feeling that someone's a bit newer to the server.
I was definitely not new, but I was playing like
Of course
I was
not.
new
But I
because
had a feel, just in my mind, I was like, yeah, I don't know who this person is.
that's fair. It's really fair, and I do appreciate that. It's nice to have those interactions as a new player. I remember when I first, actually one of my first interactions was actually a hostile one, which was way back in like 2016, and I had been soloing it and just kind of looting and doing whatever, and I hadn't really seen a lot of people, and you know, the character that I played was very fearful all the time, so they were running away from every interaction possible, and then some the cult came and fucked my shit up and kidnapped me and almost sacrificed me. And that started the journey into, you know, meeting other good groups and finding shelter with them, because I'm like, at that point my character's like, I can't fucking stay on my own out here where they know where I live, and I gotta go somewhere else. So it kind of pushed me out of that sort of comforting bubble that I kind of had, where I was just there for like 3 weeks doing nothing but collecting wood and firewood and food and you know. So yeah, I don't know.
We are coming up to, we're a half hour away from the almost 2 hour mark. And I
Yes.
know that
Questions.
Andy has some
family
plans
stuff to do.
directly after this. So I think that we've had a really good discussion, and I enjoyed hearing your perspectives on everything that came up. I would like to turn over to the people watching and answer some of their questions and hear your guys' answers to those questions. Are you guys down to answer some questions? Are the chatters prepared with some questions? I know that I saw Optic Dig ask a question, and I noted it on my little doc here. Optic asked, what is the best way to create hostile RP while making the non-hostile feel safe and respected?
That's a good question. It's a hard one because everyone's different, right? Um, if it's someone you can tell is genuinely panicked, just tell them, look, you're not going to get shot. We just want to have a conversation. And whilst that conversation is going on, you slowly ramp it up so it's at their speed, right? And by the end of it, you might be screaming and shouting at each other, or you might just have an amicable conversation about, look, we want your stuff. We're going to take it regardless, if that's the case. Or it might just be passing by. And other people, you can literally just go in as aggressive as you want to be and do what you need to because they're at a level where they are comfortable enough with it. I think it's just knowing through experience and I guess people skills to an extent outside of the game is understanding how much is too far, if that makes sense. So if someone comes at me like recently a situation happened that someone was like just disrespectful straight off the bat towards myself, and then we went back and dealt with it in the same manner, just disrespected them back. Whereas if that was someone that was just really shy and timid, even if that was their character, you would still approach it in the sense of you're not going to go and stand there and scream at someone, right? You just have to make sure that you're doing the right thing and matching the tone while still being aggressive at the same time. I don't really know how to explain it. It just is
Yeah.
I feel like
a
it's
form of
something that just
examples,
it just
go
really
watch his
takes
stream.
practice. I think I feel like it takes practice. It takes trial and error. Like you said, you kind of have to. We said it before, and I'll say it again. I think empathy is so essential, and having a high level of empathy when you're playing a villain is important, and it allows you to get a feel for people and what they're willing to tolerate. And that kind of skill just it takes time and it takes practice, And I don't think that I started off just like being an expert at it. It took a lot of months of doing it over and over again with many different people before you felt like the confidence to do it well. You're gonna mess up sometimes, and you're gonna look back on things and be like, oh, I could have done this better. That's just, if you care about what you're doing, that's just naturally what happens. You'll look back on interactions and you'll be like, oh, now I kind of wish I had done this instead, or I wish I had said this instead of this. It just happens. And you just get better at it over time. If you care to get better, you will. And that's my philosophy.
Yeah, I think to add to Steve's point, it's leaving room for them to reciprocate, right?
Mm-hmm.
As you're being hostile, as you're being aggressive, try to leave some room in there for them to respond. Because I've noticed in the past, if I've done some certain hostile RP, some people tend to close up and you're the only one talking and you're the only one trying to drive it, and it's a two-way street when you have these interactions in RP. So definitely seeing how they're responding, if they're in character, and a lot of the times, even though they may sound manic or scared or whatnot, if they're playing the character, it's giving you the room to continue. I feel that's personally.
Oh, I'm trying to make sure I grab these questions before they disappear on me, and it's pasting them in white text. That is very frustrating. I do not want, do not
Oh no.
want. I can't read it like that. We have our next question, unless I don't know if Andy, if you had anything to add to that question as well. I'm trying to snag these questions as they come in.
I forgot the question. What was the question?
Oh, maintaining the hostile RP while also making the recipient feel like safe and
Right.
respected.
Yeah. Yeah, I would say the same as you. Like, it just takes time to kind of recognize and to be in a place with your RP where you can kind of tell and appreciate when someone, even in hostile RP, is trying to make a story and trying to, further your story through their RP, their hostile RP. It's like you just get a feel for, like, game recognizes game kind of a thing. It's like you can feel the respect, even though it's a hostile thing where they may be cussing at you or doing whatever. It's like there's those little signs that they're doing it for the story, and it's just a thing you get a feel for eventually, and you're not gonna feel mad about it anymore. You're gonna be like, that was dope, that was awesome, I get to do this thing with this now. Like, it's just time and experiencing how different people do it, and just sitting back after an interaction like that and thinking, okay, especially if you get angry about it, if you're like, okay, were they trying to make story with me, and did I screw it up a little bit, or maybe I could have done things differently or gave more space or whatever, and you just kind of think back on it a little bit, and it kind of helps to in the future, when you get into another hostile interaction like that, you can be like, oh, we've been through this, and they're trying to help and create story and not just be an asshole. So, food for thought.
That's some good food for thought. I have another question from Tyler. It was already answered in the chat, but we can answer it here as well. Tyler asks, what happens if you die? Can you keep playing as your character once you respawn, or do you have to make a new personality? You can keep going. It's up to you. That is one of the beauties, I believe, of role-playing on DayZ Underground, is that whether or not you die is completely up to you and nobody else. It's your story to tell.
Yeah.
If you want to
In fact,
remember or not remember or come back or not come back, that's all you.
yeah. Perma in pretty much every RP setting is up to you, because it's your story to tell. No one can force you to RP. Or to not RP. No one can force you to RP either, but no one can force you to perma or die as your character. In pretty much every RP scenario, like if it's a server anywhere, really, that's just like a thing. in role play. It's like you can't force someone to die. So yeah, it's entirely up to you, and even more so in Doug because there's no like no one's gonna tell you to do that. You can do whatever you want after whatever happens. You can make up some reason why, like the clowns do, or there's tapes out there that are kind of like towing that line of like, oh, maybe it's because we're in the rapture or whatever. That's the end of the world in biblical ways, or there's like there's I don't know, there's a bunch of different things. Like there's the Wolf of Selene, or some people like Papa brings you back, or whatever it is. There's so many ways. So you can either incorporate the story or you can just ignore it entirely. That's totally up to you.
Our next question is for Highlanders specifically. Sneaky Pete wants to know why you're not the president of FL, because you've obviously got the sack for it.
We had a club meeting recently where we tried to, well, not we, certain members of the club tried to dethrone Joe, and I actually
Oh.
voted no to myself becoming president. So
Wow.
Highlander has a lot of respect for Joe. That's pretty much why he's not. And to be honest, I think it's a lot of work, which I probably don't have time for.
It's a great reason. That's why I don't usually take leading roles and things. 'Cause I'm like, I got other stuff to do. I
Me
don't have the
too.
time to be in that much.
That's a lot of responsibility.
It sure is. I actually had a short stint as acting leader for right when the wipe hit. So it was tough rebuilding. It takes a lot. It takes a lot of time because there's a lot of stuff that goes behind the scenes, like into developing a story or figuring out how you're going to play it off each other, while also trying to play the game as normal DayZ plus the RP on top of that.
Yeah. Yeah. The struggle is real.
I can't imagine being the leader of a group at the start of a wipe. That sounds so much stress and chaos. Trying to get all of that organized sounds like a nightmare to me. That's why I don't do it. Truly.
And especially during a time that I think it's like an unspoken thing, but pretty much everyone knows that right at wipe, it's a KOS town. Like everywhere you go, you're probably
Anything
not
goes.
going to get
It's the
RP.
purge.
Anything goes. Which,
It's the
funny enough,
equivalent
I
of it.
came across, I think it was like 2 or 3 people where I actually had good interactions. We actually, during the whole craziness of looking for nails and looking for cars and barrels and all these things, we had time to fish. And as part of the Overlook, we're always trying to feed people and all these things. So kind of finding time for that RP is always good.
All right, our next question is from Indiscriminate Haberdashery. For each independently, when an opportunity for story arises, how do we approach it? Do we let it completely happen on its own, or do we have an end goal and push the story toward that goal? Ooh.
That is a good question.
That is a good question. I need to think for a second.
I would say it's kind of a mix of both. Because you're in a server with other people, creating an environment all together. That's the whole, collaborative storytelling point. That's the point of it, is to like have an environment that things happen and they can happen to you, and you can, do things to other people, and you can all kind of like in this swirling, convoluted bits of stories coming in and out, and like it's a beautiful thing. And if something comes your way and you recognize it, the first thing is a lot of newer RP people aren't quite as good at recognizing what could be a good story. Sometimes they'll just kind of let that pass by. That's a skill that you just kind of have to gain. It's like, oh, this could be, you got to kind of be thinking that way. But I would say it's a mix. So you can, if something comes your way and you recognize it and you're like, I could do something with this, or I can just let it kind of play out. Like it's however you're feeling. If you feel comfortable, if you're if it makes sense for your character and you're comfortable doing it, you're like, okay, I'm going to continue with this because it's interesting to my character and you know their goals and you know whatever backstory or personality that they have, it might intrigue them or make them feel a certain way or whatever, and you can kind of play on that and continue with that. It's really up to you. Or if it's a story that's like seems like something maybe your character wouldn't do or wouldn't get involved in, it really varies. But it's a mix of doing kind of both, depending on you, what stories you want to engage in, and how your character would react to the stuff that's going on around them. It's a very complicated tapestry of things.
Yeah, I think I'm on the school of let the stories happen as they happen. Let it build up and don't push for something specific. But sometimes, usually the exception, it comes down to scheduling. Because
Sometimes it's
especially with different groups, you've got to schedule time for it, right? Because this week I'm free to play every night, but next week I'm not going to be around. So sometimes, yeah, you got to nudge things in the background just to see, hey, are you going to be on next week? And it's kind of very vague, but obviously you guys know what is being discussed in the sense of like, hey, we want to push the story, we want to get ahead. So
yeah, that's rough sometimes, the scheduling. Sometimes things can happen so quickly, and also things can drag on because people either can't get together or somebody else wasn't there and something else happened. It's just it's it's what it is, and nothing will ever go
no.
the way that you would ever plan. You can try a little bit, push it in a direction if you want to, but yeah, you're probably never going to get the exact thing that you maybe wanted. It's always going to be a little off in one way or another.
I'm kind of split down the middle with this, in the sense of we should always let stories play out. But if I, in character, work out exactly what you're trying to do, as much as I should stop that in its path right then and there, sometimes it's fun just to make it as difficult as possible and watch people struggle for months to try and work something out or do something that we've asked them to do or whatever it is. It creates more opportunity and enjoyment for them when, let's say, they get one part of it done, but then the next part of it's impossible. Like there's loads of layers to it, and I think it's more fun than just a case closed story. Gives people something to chase a little bit. Does that make sense?
Yeah. It's good to have those challenges and those mental gymnastics to make you have to be a little more creative about how you do things.
You guys all have such good answers. I feel like mine's just going to be kind of a repetition of what you said. I feel like I do kind of just let things play out, and I don't try to take control of a situation unless I initiated it, essentially. If I'm the initiator, then I often do kind of have an idea or an agenda of what I'm doing with that person and what story I want to push. Typically, my story pushing is a lot of just lore dropping and like telling people what I'm up to and what my group is up to, or the opposite, where it seems lately my character has no idea what her group is up to, because she's not there. But if I'm not the initiator, I I'm I'm kind of like 50-50 on whether I just let them be in complete control, or I will sometimes throw a hook if it makes sense. If it feels correct for the conversation, I might throw some kind of hook that leans more in my direction and see if they bite. And if they do, then cool. And if they don't, then also cool. It's fine.
Yeah.
Yeah. I run around with a plan, knowing that plan probably won't come to fruition. The only stories that play out exactly how I want them to are the ones I write. other than that, I enjoy the improv. I enjoy the surprise. I enjoy the unexpected. So I don't try too hard to maintain control of any story or interaction. I enjoy the choose your own adventure style of storytelling, and I let other people who interact with my character choose their own adventure in her story, and I have fun including people and figuring out how to maneuver around their story and meld them together and make them make sense. That's part of the fun for me. So I hope that answers your question. I feel like I talk in circles. I liked their answers too. Also, all of their answers. Put me down, check me in for all of those as well. I liked everything that was said before me. I only see one more question and also a statement. Apparently Highlander is ignoring something be Wong. How dare you? How dare you ignore them? They came into my chat and said Highlander ignores me, so I came here.
That's Bertha.
Oh, it's Bertha. Hi, Bertha. Bertha asks, sometimes the environment of Doug won't support a group concept or idea of a group. Is there a group of past eras of Doug you would think would fit the current Doug landscape that might be missing?
Like, is there a group that would fit better here and that has been in the past that would do better here?
That's how I read
That
it.
kind of
It
thing?
says, is there a group of past eras that you think would fit the current landscape that might be missing? So I guess how I'm reading it is there a group from the before times that you think would fill a hole in the current times? That's how I'm reading it. Bertha can let me know if I'm reading that correctly. But that's how
Ooh,
I interpreted the question.
tough one. It's so tough. Because there have been a lot of very unique groups in the past that have all done their own thing and all had their own places. So it's like the environment that it is now and the groups that are here now are what it is. So it's like they are what they are because they're in the place that they were at the time that they were. So it's like to pick one of those up and put it somewhere now. Like, I don't know. It's a weird thought for me. Maybe it's just Ember historian brain, but like I'm like, history is the way that it was meant to be. I don't know that. I mean, the closest thing I could think would be like a Black Paw. That's like a totally mercenary group. That's like anti-hero, kind of like unpredictable, neutral, kind of does things for both sides, is good and bad and formidable. That's the closest I got.
I'll go with probably Black Cross or Pirates of Pusta.
Yeah.
Pirates were a lot of fun, and Biscuits, Ben and FL is probably one of the most funniest people I've ever met in my life. And like every day he makes me laugh without fail. And I think his characters, he plays them so well. He really leans into the character and thinks about what he's going to do before he does it. And even if it's like he's came away from an interaction that he's not happy with, he kind of beats himself up over it, which is how I know he's a good role player, right? And then Black Cross, I think they were just fun for myself, and they were kind of good to be around. They're like there was never any issues with them or anything like that, and I think they provided a lot to the era that they were in, right? So
Oh yeah.
I think they would quite easily slot back in my opinion.
I'm trying to think of an answer that is not what you already said. It's hard because
I could change my answer.
I can think of groups in the past that I mean I would love to see them come back. The PTU comes to mind. They were iconic, an iconic trade group that I think about, but that niche is not necessarily empty now. You know what I mean? Like there are groups doing almost that exact same thing. There are already trading groups that exist on the server. I think of like the Black Cross being like a focus of like medical practitioners, but then I also think we have Maybe's medical clinic, and that is a place that exists and a person that exists now. It's not quite the same, but it's still a niche that's being filled, you know, and really that your answer, Andy, with Blackpaw is the only thing I can think of that might be missing is that type of like just gun for hire mercenary type of group.
And you've got Rise
Okay.
Against though as well.
And yeah, okay, so then, you know, I
They
can't
could get there.
yeah, I can't think of a niche like
I've
is
just thought
empty.
of Duty from way back in the day, because they were more about curtailing like the infection and like researching and scientific, things like that. But they were also like a military organization, so they also had their PvP kind of stuff. But I remember them being, I'm not sure there's been a group like that really since then that I know of. That's like scientifically that way, you know. So that might be cool.
I have thought a lot about a group that is very kind of a mixture of different groups that exist right now, where you have like you have the 506 and the way they deal with their territory and how like incredibly strict they are about it, but they're also, you know, they're not a good guy group they necessarily. But I think that this is not an answer to your question, because I really can't think of any groups from the past that would fill a hole that's missing right now. I think we have a good mix of different
Pretty good
stuff going
mix.
on, honestly. But something I think that it could be missing is like a community style group that is very selective on who gets to be in that community, and they are, you know, they're not necessarily bandits going around robbing people, but they're really reclusive and it's hard to get in, kind of like a Walking Dead style uh place. And I just imagine it being very like heavily defended from outsiders, and being able to join and be a part of that place would take a lot of time and a lot of relationship building and a lot of trust building before you were accepted. I feel like something like that would be interesting, but I don't know how it would play out in Doug.
It's like a well-run UN, basically, what you're
Yeah,
describing
yeah,
in a way.
yeah, something like that I think would be cool. I can't think of anybody doing something like that right now. I
I
could be
can't really
wrong
think
because
of
I
anyone
really
doing
don't.
that in the past.
I can't think
Right.
of anybody
Back in my
doing that.
brain, I'm like,
I think that, so if anybody's wants to pick my brain about groups that are missing, there's that. I don't think I heard
Yeah.
from
Yeah.
Navi if Navi had a group in mind.
I actually don't. I'm not too well versed on the history of past groups, so I won't speak on that. But
all right, I'll come
I do.
down and talk to you about the one.
Please, no, I love lore dumps. I love lore dumps. So
Amber's got so much lore dumps.
but in the sense of like the current landscape, I feel there's a wide range of
Mhm.
different styles of play, different styles of groups. It's kind of crazy because sometimes I'm interacting with a group and it's like, oh, if I had this character, maybe I would join them, or you know, or attempt to at least. But I think there's a huge spectrum, and it's a good landscape. I think good place where Doug is right now, at least with the groups and factions.
All right, I think that brings us to our last question. I know Andy needs to go like in 5 minutes. We'll answer this last question from Bobby Boy, and then Andy's going to take off and we're going to say goodbye. The last question is, does the influence of being called bad or evil change how you think about your character, and do you judge the character that you play? Yes, I do judge my own character. If you watch me stream, I will say things in character, and then out of character, I'll be like, "Oh my god, I'm so fucked up. This is so fucked up." Um, I do it all the time. I'm very aware that the things I do and say in character are, well, they're wild and crazy, and that's what they're meant to be. What about you guys?
I
Oh yeah,
don't.
I
Oh, sorry, on you go, mate. On you go.
no, go ahead, Steve.
I don't judge Highlander at all, actually. I kind of relish in it, right? Because it is a completely different perspective to my life. So I'm extremely laid back in person. I find everything hilarious, whereas Highlander is just the polar opposite, where he's the least happy person in Chernarus. He's blunt, straight to the point, and fucking like just rude as fuck all the time. And he snaps at everything, right? So I have to enjoy that side of him to an extent. Yes, it is a bit fucked up at times, but I don't sit there going like, "Oh my god, I can't believe I just done that." But I'm kind of more just laughing at it because I'm like, that's so out of pocket. Like, it's so bad, but it's so funny at the same time.
Yeah,
But
that's
no,
how I do
I
it
don't sit
too.
and worry about anything.
Yeah, I'm not like losing sleep over it, but I do like in the moment I'll be like I'll be laughing about something in character and be like, "Wow, she's what a mess. She's messed up."
I guess from my side, not that I'm doing effed up things as my character, but the lack of doing effed up things is sometimes what I judge my character on. Where me as a person, I would have, one of my friends is getting attacked, right? And I'm here choosing, hey, the Overlook is neutral. I can't get involved outside of my territory, and I feel like judging my character based off his inaction does happen just because of I should be more hostile, right? In a but I have my ideals that I have to live by.
Yeah. I don't play bad guys on this platform, but I have, and I would say that I don't typically judge them because, like yes, that if you're making a villain, they're going to be a little, and they're going to have something going on. But if you're playing them, you kind of know their motivations, and the best kind of story villains are the ones who think they're right and think they're doing good things and they're doing what they have to do. Whatever the reason is, like the best villains are the ones who don't think they're doing anything wrong. So, yeah.
Well, I think that was a great discussion, and I don't see any more questions. So I think we can do our closing. Thank you
Yay.
guys for showing up and hanging out with us and talking about this with us. And if there's any final words that you may want to say, I mostly just want to reiterate that I think that what both of you are doing is super important and really healthy for the server, and it's really great role play, and keep it up. We appreciate you on Doug, and we did have some kind words for both of you and just how great you both are, and I wanted to make sure you knew that. And I wish I got to role play with you both more, but life is life, including Andy. I wish I got to role play with Andy more too. I think we're really lucky to have so many great role players. Doug is in a really awesome place right now. I think everyone sitting here would agree. We've got a lot of new folks, and that's what we do these streams for. We're doing them with newcomers in mind that may want to be dipping their toe in roleplay. And if you want to see past episodes and catch up on them, I know I've linked the Discord a couple of times if you're interested in roleplay and getting to talk with some veteran role players as well as other new role players. You can join our Discord. And you can also see a playlist on my YouTube of all the past episodes if you want to catch up on those. Yeah. Thank you guys.
Yep. Thank you
Yeah,
for
thanks for having me.
coming. I gotta go.
Alrighty.
Andy needs to
I
leave.
love
Get
you
out of
all. I
here.
need to leave. Goodbye.
Bye-bye.
Bye bye.
And adios and toodles to the two of you. And hopefully we'll see you on Doug someday.
Yeah.
Yes.
One
Yeah,
of these
time zones
days.
suck.
Yep.
Time zones suck. So do queue times.
Oh,
Prio when?
Yeah.
Are any admins
Yeah,
watching?
yeah.
Prio when? When?
At
Please.
Blake.
All right.
all right, everyone.
Take care. Have a great night, and thanks again.
Yeah, enjoy. See you guys.
Bye-bye.
Bye. Thank you for having.
Yep. Okay. Let me find some places to raid. I learned recently that I cannot raid on YouTube because I don't have enough subscribers. So if you're watching and you're not subscribed to my YouTube, I would greatly appreciate it if you head on over there and hit the subscribe button for me. Because I would really love to send some raids over on YouTube as well as Twitch. I try to remember to raid people at the end of streams. The last couple of streams, I really struggled to do it. And I figured out that's why, because I can't freaking raid on YouTube. I don't have enough subs. So one day I will. I believe in us. I believe in us. So I will find someone to raid on Twitch, and I will link their Twitch over there on the YouTube chat for you guys if you want to go and see them. If any of you over on the YouTube have a link to somebody that you would like to go visit, feel free to post them in the chat. I'm pretty sure you all are able to post links. Christine says Steve and Vadim are both streaming, so let's see. Is Vadim on both? I know that Steve is on both. They both are on. Let's go and say hi to Vadim. We just saw Steve, you guys. We just saw him. Let's go say hi to Vadim. Let's raid Vadim. I can't raid Vadim on YouTube, so you guys will just have to mosey on over there by yourself. If somebody has the link, please feel free to share it. And we'll go say hi to Vadim. Did I type this wrong? I did. I did type it wrong. There we go. All right. The Twitch raid over to Vadim on Twitch is started. I'll see you guys over there. Thank you again for watching, and I'll see you next weekend. Bye-bye.